but you'll never find 3 times just to find anything that will suffice. Oh no, ain't nothing out there for you. So what you gonna do? Ain't nothing out there for you. Oh no, it's just anything that will suffice. Oh no, ain't nothing out there for you. Be strong. Don't lose what you got. It's too close to quit now. Just hold on. Ain't nothing out there. Enjoyed your whether it was your meal, refreshment, whatever it was during the break, and also that didn't really get much into the video that we were playing on the real Mount Sinai, but hopefully you find some of the information that was covered initially there to be encouraging to dig a little bit more, right? All right. Well, to Yahuah be all praise, honor, and esteem. We are going to go ahead and get back into the book of Mashali. Proverbs chapter 12 is where we were. So we're going to be picking up there and finishing off. No, I did not see that, Aki. I did not see that. No, I did not see that, Aki. Yeah, Derek. Okay. Will do. Yeah, is it so that video is about the family themselves, because I do have a video which is a part of this video on the two gentlemen that went over. Well, yeah, and the video shows the other family that was over there also. I'm not sure if yeah, so yeah, that is a part of this video. It's in the latter part of this video. So I wasn't sure if it was another one. Yeah, that is a part of this video, Aki. Yes. Okay, Akut. And by the way, Shabbat Shalom to you, Akut Kaz, and to Aki Yahu Kanan, and to all of the rest of the family who I might not have greeted earlier. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you all, Mashpaka. All right. Let me. Yeah. So this video you can. Let me just put the link up to the video that I was playing. This was last Shabbat. Let me just see if I can get a hold of it. Oops. Okay. No, that's not there. Let me just get a link. Bear with me just for a second, family. Now this video includes a video from Truth Unveiled 777, and also a video from the family who initially, was involved in this discovery. So very important information. Go ahead, Aki. Aki Matatyahu. Go ahead, my Aki.
Shabbat Shalom, Mishpachah.
Shabbat Shalom, Aki.
It's off subject. It's basically talking about Mount Sinai.
So they think that you can. Oops, sorry, Aki. I'm sorry. I was trying to do something as you were speaking. Sorry. Go ahead, Aki.
Yeah, it's talking about Mount Sinai. That I used to work in Saudi Arabia. I worked there for 12 years. I was there when the family discovered Mount Sinai.
Okay.
I also have a friend who works directly with the family of Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And right before King Abdullah passed away, my friend he has a friend who is the who's the current king, his son, and my friend is a direct friend with him, and he's the Minister of Interior. No, not Interior, Minister of Travel. So anyway, King Abdullah, before he passed away, had said he had a dream where he, during his watch, that he was supposed to gather the main three religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, to come together. And how was that supposed to be formulated? It was to be formulated on revealing the truth of where Mount Sinai, the truth of where Mount Sinai was. And it never came. It was a big push. It was a strong push for it. And I was supposed to be on the security detail of providing the escort of those who's traveling back and forth to Mount Sinai, where the altar is, where they did the split rock. The whole area is a path that leads right from the crossing over from the Rift Sea all the way to that path is still right there, that was once traveled by our ancestors all the way to Mount Sinai. So it never the reason they saying that is not, it may not come to pass, is because of the oil prices right now, because the barrel oil has taken a hit, drop from 100-something barrels down to whatever it is right now.
Yeah.
So the revenue that they had coming in for the country has dwindled.
Yes.
And they're not going to make that attempt to use their own personal. So just a little tidbit there.
Okay.
Needs to make.
Indeed, interesting, Aki. Interesting, and Tuda for sharing. There's one thing that it is amazing to me that for as long as this information has been out there, this family, they discovered it in, I believe it was 1978 when it was first discovered, and they've made a lot of attempts to get the word out, but it's just amazing to me that certain powers that be continue to kind of disregard it because they're so into their lies, you know. But for how long can they keep the truth quiet? And for how long can they keep it hidden? You know, anything. I think it was Martin Luther King that said, "Truth pressed down in the ground will rise again." You see, and so indeed it will rise. Let me see. Go ahead, Aki ya Derek. Go ahead, Aki.
I'm sorry. I just wanted. Oh, uh, hello.
Yes, go ahead, Aki. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I really wanted to piggyback off of that what the Aki just said. Um, and I just asked. I don't know if anybody had heard of the 1,400-year-old war, but that's the war that's currently going on in Islam.
Mm-hmm.
The big fear of if Iran gets a nuclear weapon
Mm-hmm.
is not about the United States. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, the place that they're going to attack is Saudi Arabia
Mm-hmm.
because their prophet was murdered in Mecca,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the split that happened in Islam. So the big threat about Iran getting a nuclear weapon has to do with Iran attacking Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thinks that Israel is the first target
Target.
on Iran's list,
Yeah.
and it's not. The big target is Saudi Arabia because the Prophet Muhammad was murdered in Mecca,
Mm-hmm.
and with the information that came out regarding um, Mount Sinai being in Saudi Arabia, I think it's another agenda for them to erase the evidence that the Israelites passed through there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to add that. I'll release the mic.
Yes, yes, that's indeed correct, Aki. That's indeed correct. They and right now there is a striving going on. Like you said, it's the 1400 year war, 1400-year-old war that continues, and a lot of what goes on in the Middle East, even with power plays for Iraq and what they call over there in what's that called, Syria. A lot of that it's really you have Saudi Arabia and Iran in competition, in strong competition for the advantage, for what you would call for what's the word I'm looking for, influence, you know and so there is really in fact a big competition between the two countries, because you have two different kinds of Muslims, uh, really warring against each other between the two countries. So in fact that is so true, and to that for sharing, Aki. Yes, because it's the same. What are they? Sunnis? I believe it's Sunnis that are between Turkey and Iran. They're mostly Sunnis.
Okay,
Yes, go ahead, Aki.
yeah, a lot of people don't understand the true makeup of Saudi Arabia, but yeah, is Sunni and Shia,
Mm-hmm.
but actually during the Ottoman Empire is basically the height of Islam, and it was Wahhabi, the
Mm-hmm.
Wahhabi faction or tribe
Yes.
that was the real stronghold of Islam.
Yes.
And once they got Islam fell, the Ottoman Empire fell. Most of them went to Saudi Arabia,
Yes.
and the internal conflict that's going on in Saudi is the royal family up against the Wahhabi
Mm-hmm.
uh, influence.
Mm.
Release the mic.
Yes. To that for sharing. To that. Interesting stuff indeed. Okay. Um, it seems more foreboding than any other. Yes, certainly does. And as time goes on, what we find is things becoming, the troubles are only increasing. Really and truly, the troubles are only increasing because the time of the wicked must come to an end. And so, creation is groaning. It's about to give birth, you see. And so instability has become the new norm, you see. Instability has become the new norm because nothing is normal anymore. Instability in everything. I was just saying to my wife this morning that the plants are confused. You see, because I cut down, we have a rose bush in a flower box that I made in the backyard, and I cut it down a few weeks ago. Okay, it's fall, and I cut it down so it can start regrowing in the spring. Well, I look out there now, and the thing is almost half the size of what it was before I cut it down. It's springing as if it's springtime. You see, the grass don't want to turn brown, and just everything is contrary to what it should be. So the signs are really all around us, and there is instability, and nobody is certain about anything. But that's Yahuah working, And so while the world is in an uproar and while the world is uncertain, it's time for Yasharal to rejoice, halal huyah, because our Redeemer and our redemption draws nigh, halal huyahua. And so, we give Yahuah praise for what he does. And the wicked might think they have a plan. They might think that they have a plan, but Yahuah is in absolute control. And so we give him praise, we give him honor, and we give him esteem. Indeed, when the past president of Iran, before he left office, he was busy preparing. He was busy preparing for the quote unquote Mahdi, and to bring about chaos. Yes, go ahead, Aki.
I really, I'm sorry to take this off track. I really wanted to get your input on this because I've heard over the last 2 or 3 years, several teachers in Christianity put this out there, and I really wanted to get your input on it because the Mahdi of Islam is the Bible's mirror image of the Antichrist. And I wanted to know if you had any input on that. What I'm saying is, for the descriptions that Scripture gives in Christianity of the Antichrist, all of the things that he'll do, those characteristics and personality are correlations to the Quran's Mahdi. And they're waiting on this, what is it? I think the 12th Imam, who is going to be the Mahdi, the promised one for Islam, but he is a direct mirror image of the Antichrist. And many, I can't even guess how many, but many Bible scholars over the last 3, 4, 5 years, with the rise of Islamic terror, have pointed at this Mahdi as being the personification of the Antichrist. And I just wanted to know if you had any input on that. Thank you. I'm releasing the mic.
Yes, to the Aki. There is a belief and a teaching, and it's been around for quite some time, that the what you would call the so-called antichrist, and the fact of the matter is, the whole title of antichrist itself is construed, but there is a belief and a teaching, and it's been around, that this anti-Mashiach is coming out of Islam, and not out of Europe. Okay, now when you look at the beliefs and teachings of Islam, Islam is really a it is a how should I put it? It is a counter. It is a counter to Christianity. In other words, for generations, for thousands of years now, Islam's war have been directly against Christianity. Now, of course, they have oppressed our people. They have killed many of our people, but in their minds, Christianity is their greatest, biggest competitor and greatest foe in the minds of these Muslims. Now, keep in mind that Islam, yes, and Islam came out of Christianity. Okay, Islam came out of Christianity. But keep in mind, so when we talk about Islam, we're not talking about the belief of Ashma'al in its original state. We're not talking about the practice of Ashma'al in its original state. Islam basically is just like Christianity came in and hijacked our way, the scriptures. Islam basically did the same thing also. Islam is relatively new, right? Islam is relatively new. And people today who are called Muslims, they're actually not the descendants of Ashma'al. Okay? They're not the descendants of Ashma'al. Now, Yashar al does have a natural enemy when it comes to Ashma'al and Yashar al. Okay? Ashma'al would fight against Yashar al and would continually do so, but Ashma'al, the descendants of Ashma'al, are melanated people. You see? We can call them Arabs. And they're Arabs, but they're not Muslims in the sense that we know Muslims today. And historically, I think that there's a misunderstanding when it comes to that. You see, so Islam started around what 700 CE, 740 was when yes. Go ahead, Aki.
Yeah, piggyback on what you're saying about Ashmal
And
and
Yashara.
yeah, and you're absolutely correct because the whole thing about the Christianity about the Vatican it was basically so Israel is Yasharel at that time was basically voided,
Mm-hmm.
but the Vatican couldn't get in there to capture Yerushalayim
Right.
because of Ishmael and his people were up in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the Vatican went over there. They seek that this is from what I've researched.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we do. But Muhammad was out there talk about everybody got a religion, this, that, another. The Vatican. He met his wife. His
Mm-hmm.
wife, she was a nun
Mm-hmm.
with the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
Her brother, part of the Vatican, went and trained Muhammad. So the
Mm-hmm.
whole purpose of creating Islam was for the purpose of the Vatican that those people would have an attachment to the Vatican, be a tool of the Vatican, capture Jerusalem for the Vatican and turn it over.
Mm-hmm.
But once Islam realized how powerful they became as a religion and a group of people, they turned on the Vatican,
Right.
and that's where the old boy rose up. What's his name? Salamine.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And so
Suleiman something. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, so so the Ottomans, so who are the Ottomans? Because all of them they play into this. So who are the Ottomans? Ottomans are Caucasian people, all right? And what they did was they came from the Caucasus Mountains. Totally, yeah, totally Caucasian. Give me 1 second, family. No, you'll have to fix it over there. So they what they did was they no, they're not even natural themselves. The Ottoman emperor is not even natural themselves. The Ottoman emperor were Caucasian also. So what happened today? Turkey. Look at Turkey today. Turkey is a remnant of the Ottoman emperor. Now Turkey is considered a European nation, right? Today, Turkey is considered a part of Europe. Okay, and the people who control Turkey are more Caucasian looking than they should be. Really, if they belong to the place, they would be. Listen, the people who belong to those regions, the original people, are a melanated people. The people belonging to those regions. So this is what happened. The Ottoman Emperor, what happened in the Caucasus Mountains, you had one segment of the Caucasus Mountain that they sided with the people of Yasharal. Okay? And they began to take on the ways of the people of Yasharal. Eventually they kidnapped our ways and our identity. And then you have the other sect up there in the Caucasus Mountains who took on the ways of Ashma'al. Okay, they took on the ways of Ashma'al. Now the difference between the Ottoman and the others who came from the Caucasus Mountains and took over the land of Yasharal, the Ottomans, they did not have any bias when it comes to race. Okay, so they believed that the way that they expand their empire was to freely intermingle with the people that they encounter, okay, and that they conquer. So they would freely intermingle. They would mix their seed deliberately, willingly, and freely. They would mix, and when they mix, as they mix, they would claim the offsprings as their own. You see, now that's somebody with a strategy, right? They would claim the offsprings as their own. Okay, now as they claim the offsprings as their own, in so doing, their emperor becomes bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. And so what you have now, they possessed lands like Turkey, they possessed Jerusalem and other places in the region, and it become a part of the Ottoman Emperor. By the time they're done, the people who possess that place no longer look like the people who belong there. Now what you have is a new breed. You have a hybrid breed of people, and that's who we now today call Muslims. But the Muslims and the Arabs are not the same people. The Arabs are the original people. Okay? And when I say people who claim that they're Arabs today, they're not even real Arabs. Okay? They don't show you the real Arabs. Because the real Arabs are darker people, you see. And in some cases, depending on where they settled, some of them, because Arabs come from Ashma'al, some of them, because of where they settled, they became somewhat lighter, but you can tell that they're people of melanin, you see. And so, but today there's a misunderstanding concerning who Ashma'al really is. So these Islamic states today, they're as a result of the Ottoman Emperor. That's why when you go deep in the Caucasus Mountains, you find Muslims in the Caucasus Mountains. Okay, you find Muslim nations, places like Georgia and different places like that. You have two groups of people up there. You have the Christians and you have the Muslims. You have the Jews. You have Judaism still up there. You see, because of this this mixing. that took place. It's the same people, but what they did at that time, they played a diplomatic game by mixing, you see, because what they did was that's their way of gaining power and control, and by tricking people. Now, to go back to the question of uh, this idea of the Mahdi and so-called Antichrist, um, at the end of the day, Ashma'al is Yasharal's enemy, and I've been Yasharal's enemy. Interestingly enough, though, so the seed of Ashma'al would be against Yasharal. But you look at, for example, when you read the book of Yashar, Ashma'al's way of life and Ashma'al's way of worship was actually quite in line with Abraham's way of worship. You see? Now, just like Yasharal would turn to idolatry, I believe that Ashma'al turned to idolatry. But when you look at the book of Yashar, Ashma'al worshipped, it would seem, he worshipped in the same way. He worshipped Yahuah, you see. But at some point, as Yasharal did, they fell into idolatry. Now, Yasharal's enemy is not limited to Ashma'al, even though Ashma'al is an enemy of Yasharal. And so, I do not limit what you would call anti-Mashiach to one nation, as in, say, the Muslims are going to be it, you see. But Adum, we know who Adum today is. What we're going to have is, I believe, that we see it. Yasharallah has many enemies. So even the offspring from Ashma'al and the Muslim nations have been enemies to Yasharal. They have killed many of our people, and they continue and will continue. But it's not limited to just them. Antichrist, I believe, this title of Antichrist, which don't belong in the scriptures, and the way that it's presented, don't belong in the scriptures. It was put there by Christians. But I think it messes up our understanding of what we ought to expect. You see? It tend to give you the idea, well, the doctrine that accompany it, yes, anti-Mashiach is what it is. Anti-Mashiach. And if you're anti-Mashiach, it means you're anti-Yasharal. You're anti his people. You understand that Mashiach is no other than Yahuah himself. So to be anti-Mashiach is to be anti-Yahuah. Okay? So the question is, is it one nation or one man that we await? No. We do not await the arrival of one nation or one man. You see? We have a system and we have nations, a confederacy of nations that is against us and has always been against us. You see? So, when you go back to Tahalim chapter 83, let me go back to it here real quick. And let me go back to it for a second and read from it. Okay? But if you go to Tahalim 83, let me get back to it. If you go to Tahalim 83, it says, let me make this bigger so everyone can see. See, Christianity have given us this idea of this one man. And Islam, which is nothing more than Christianity in another skirt, just like Judaism is nothing more than Christianity in another skirt, they follow some of the same doctrines, some of the same teachings, you see. Okay? Islam, though, we have to understand, think that its Mahdi is going to come and it's going to defeat. Their war is against Christianity. Their war is against Christianity. So in essence, they're blindly fighting against themselves because they're no different than Christianity. Their belief and Christian belief is the same thing. Okay? At the end of the day, they believe the same thing, just with a bunch of variation of the lies. You see? And that's not what the enemy of Yahuah. So Christianity is not the truth. You see? So to fight against Christianity is nothing. You see? If to say you're going to defeat Christianity, that's nothing. That's just this. That's just tearing down the true the lie. One aspect of the lie. That's Yahuah defeating the enemy. The way I see that is Yahuah using those who are on the same side to defeat themselves, and Yasharal watching it unfold. You see, just like when Madian came up against Yasharal, and Yahuah told them, okay, put a candle in the vessel, get your shofar in your hand, go and stand above them on the mountain, sound the shofar and break the vessels, and then they're going to break out in confusion and they're going to begin to slaughter themselves. What I see with Islam and Christianity is them just slaughtering themselves. They're enemies of the truth. But none of them are slaughtering the truth, because none of them is the truth. When they begin to war against each other, they're not the truth. They're just confused, you see. Let me read from Tahalim 83. O Elohim, do not remain silent. Do not be speechless, and do not be still, O Ah. For look, your enemies make an uproar, and those hating you have lifted up their head. They craftily plot against your people and conspire against your treasured ones. Now, if you ask the Christian, they will read this text and they will point to Islam. They will point to the Muslims. They will say, Christians will say, we are the people, and the Muslims are plotting against us. They're trying to get nuclear warheads. They're doing this because they're plotting. They don't like Christianity. They're plotting against us. Okay? That's what the Christians will say. And the Muslims will think it's their job to defeat the Christians, because the Christians are, against them. And again, they're really the same people, same belief, just different twisted variations of the same belief. Now, they have said, come and let us wipe them out as a nation, and let the name of Yasharal be remembered no more. Okay, the Christians certainly don't call themselves Yasharal, and nobody call the Christians Yasharal. Well, you'll find some Christians, you'll find a few now that say that we have replaced. They don't say Yasharal, they say we have replaced Israel. That's what they call the replacement theology. I see your flag. Go ahead, Aki.
Yeah, Keith. Obviously, that's total propaganda, total lie of the gatekeepers of Christianity. Telling the sheeple.
Yes.
Because it's obviously, and it just shows how stupid the people are, because you have to take into account when we up here reading when reading Talahim 83 and how long ago that took place. Islam wasn't even around. Islam wasn't even thought of.
That's right.
So how could the people be that stupid and say, "Oh yeah, that's us, and that's them"? I'm off.
Yes, that's absolutely right, Aki. It's absolutely right. Islam only was invented in 740, what they call AD, which I call CE, Common Era, I call it. Okay, Islam was invented in 740. You see, and like Aki Matyahu mentioned earlier, it was invented by Christianity, you see, where Muhammad had a Christian wife. You see, Muhammad could not read nor write, and so all of his writings was done by his wife. All of the writings were done by his wife. And when you look at them, what are they? They are a mirror of the Bible. Okay? They are a mirror of the Bible. They have said, "Come and let us wipe them out as a nation, and let the name of Yasharal be remembered no more. For they have conspired together with one heart. They have made a contract against you. The tents of Adum and of Yashma'al, Moab, and Agar, Gabal, and Ammon, and Amalek, Philistia, with the inhabitants of Zur, Ashur also has joined with them." Family, you know what we're looking at right here? All of these nations. These are the nations of the earth. This is not just one nation. What we have is all of them conspiring against the real people, the true people. Okay? The tents of Adum, and of Yashma'al, and of Moab, and of Hagar, of Gabal, and of Ammon, and of Amalek, Phalashat, with the inhabitants of Zur. Ashur also, Ashur is Assyria, Syria, also has joined with them. Not modern day Syria, because modern day Syria is not Syria at all. Modern day Syria comes out of the Asmonean, not Asmonean, out of the, forget the emperor again. I can't never remember that emperor. Aki had to remind me the other day also. But come out from the Caucasus Mountains. They have helped the children of Lut, Salah, okay? Do to them as to Madian, as to Sisera, as to Yabin, as to the Huadi Kashan, who perished at Andor, who became as dung for the ground. Make their nobles like Orab and like Zahab, and all their princes like Zaba and Zalmunna, who have said, "Let us take possession of the pastures of Alakim for ourselves." Okay, so basically what I'm pointing out here is that the enemies of Yasharal and those who are anti-Mashiach, it's not limited to any one nation. So there are people, the Christians, it's in the Christians' interest to put out a doctrine that says, see, we're not the bad ones, the Muslims are. Out of them is going to come the Mahdi, and they're going to try to take over the world, and Antichrist is going to come from them, and we've got to stop them, and so on and so forth. All of that is what you call that again? Propaganda. You see, all of it is propaganda. It's just one trying to make himself look good and to make the other one look bad. When really, at the end of the day, it's not about none of them. This is not about any of them. Okay, what we have is one nation against the world, or the world against one nation. At the end of the day, is what it comes down to. That's what the scriptures tells us. You see. The scriptures tells us that all the nations of the world come together and frown upon Yasharal. That's what we read of time and time again in the scriptures. It's not this one against that one and somehow we are forgotten. No, all of them is against us. That's what the scriptures tells us, you see. And so that's what it tells us here in Tahlim 83 also. So, Antichrist, it's a false narrative invented by Christianity. Anti-Mashiach, that's the world against Yahuah and his people. Okay? And so the whole narrative have been kind of messed up, jacked up, twisted, and presented. You know, the wicked is going to fight against the wicked, yes. You see, but at the end of the day, they will all rise up against Yahuah and his people and will be defeated, will be destroyed. So, I'm aware of the teachings out there, but I don't see the scriptures from that perspective. I don't see the scriptures putting them in play like that, other than them gathering against us, you see. And so, you know, what I see is them joining forces continually, to oppress the people of Yasharal, the people of Yasharal, not the people of Israel, the people of Yasharal. You see, people of Israel is our Yids. Talking about the people of Yasharal. All right. Okay. I don't know how much service I did to the subject, Aki, but I tried to kind of fit all of my thoughts in a somewhat short response, but hopefully it kind of made some things clear as to how I see that. Okay. All right. Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to oh wait, there's a question about fallen ones. The fallen ones. Yes, we're gonna go back to Mashali 12. Let me just take a peek at this question here very quickly about fallen ones. Okay, yes. So here's the thing, Mashpaka. Aki Delayahu had just asked, so what was Farkan's point about telling black people we are the real people of Yasharal? So what happened is, with the Nation of Islam, there is confusion, right? The Nation of Islam don't realize that what they're esteeming is just another version of Christianity. You can take any subject. You can take doctrines about the afterlife. You can take any subject and consider it against their teaching, and you will find the same thing in Christianity. Okay, only thing different may be the idea of having the virgins, but just about everything you will find in Christianity. The symbolisms are still symbolisms of Christianity. A lot of people don't realize that the crescent moon and the star did not begin with Islam, began with Christianity. Islam just kept it, but it began with Christianity. And to be quite frank, it didn't begin with Christianity, because where did Christianity begin? Christianity stole its stuff from Egypt, right? That's where it began. Christianity stole it from Egypt, and then Islam came along and borrowed it again off of Christianity. So it goes way back. All right. Now, what they did was so they don't realize that it's just another version of Christianity, and what they call themselves the people of Yasharal, but there is confusion. You see, there is confusion in the midst and misunderstanding in the midst. You see, so at the end of the day, it's just a mess of confusion. At the end of the day, yes, indeed, Aki, Franklin, indeed. You see, it's just a mess at the end of the day. It really is just a mess at the end of the day. Now, let's see. Give me 1 second. Yes. Because they did it by force. Yeah. Oh, there was another question on the board. I'm trying to find it real quick. Give me 1 second. There is another question I'm trying to find. Just bear with me just for a second here, family. Don't remember what it was in regards to. Dang, there was another question. It was about, yeah. Okay, alien equal fallen ones? Yes, Akut. Yes. It's interesting. I was having that conversation with my children this morning. Talk about alien here for a second. Okay. Alien. All right. Now, they have done a job on us to make you think, when you hear the word alien, to make you think of little green men. That's something that they did to people. So when you say alien, people think of little green men. That's a part of the brainwashing. That's a part of the conditioning. Okay. But what is the true definition of the word alien? What's the true meaning of the word alien? Foreigner or stranger, right? That's the true meaning of the word alien. Foreigner or stranger. Okay? All right. Now, what's the definition of the abbreviation UFO? What's the definition of the abbreviation UFO, or the acronym UFO? What is the definition? Unidentified flying object. What that simply means is anything in the sky that you cannot associate with something that you know. Okay? Is an unidentified flying object. In other words, if there is a drone in the sky and you can't make out that it's a drone because of the height where it's at, it might look like a balloon, but then something about it says it's not a balloon, then I've got to come to the conclusion that this is an object in the sky that I cannot clearly identify, so that makes it an unidentified flying object. Okay? Yes, anything that cannot be clearly identified becomes a UFO. We got to understand that anything that cannot anything in the sky that cannot be clearly identified becomes a UFO. Okay? Now, there are people who say that they have seen many unidentified flying objects. May be true, may not be true. The question is, aliens. Does aliens exist? And when we talk about aliens, what are we talking about? Okay? Well, they call it aliens. The scriptures call them watchers. Okay, so when I read the scriptures, I find the servants of Yahuah that would be alien to us. They would be foreigners to us. The scriptures tells us that the messengers of Yahuah, or the watchers of Yahuah, that in their natural existence they look different from us, but they can also take on the form of people. Scriptures tells us that. I'm not talking even about the book of Abarim. I'm talking about in other writings from the scriptures. It tells us that, right? That they can take other form. Okay? The scriptures tells us that these watchers were the ones who gave people the knowledge to build, right? To create and to do many different things. So, family, my son had a project the other day, and they wanted him to create a pyramid. Okay? So I set out to help him, and I thought, well, that shouldn't be so difficult. Yeah, let's get a few things and, get some paper and we'll build a pyramid. You look at those pyramids. No, they're vast. They're vast structures. You look at those pyramids on TV, they might seem bland. But you try to build one, you will find that it's no easy task. I tell you, it's a challenge. And I sat there trying to figure out how to build a pyramid, And so finally, and I knew that a pyramid is three triangles put together, but I'm trying to build a pyramid. And so my wife, what she did was she just came along and cut three triangles out of paper and taped them together. And that was the easy way to build a pyramid. But that's not the way the pyramids were built. And when you get into trying to build a pyramid, there is nobody even alive today that can build one of those pyramids the way that they were built. Nobody alive today that know how to do it. Where did that knowledge come from? I believe that people built it, but that knowledge came from what's called the watchers or the messengers, the fallen messengers of Yahuah. Now, to us, we would call them aliens, strangers, foreigners, because they're foreign to us. They're not like us. They're not from our realm, you see. And so they're aliens to us. So I think it's important for us to, when we talk about aliens, to recognize, yes, we can classify them as demons, even though demons is, it comes from a Greek word that have a bit of mythology to it, but you can classify it in that way, spiritual foes, right? And so, but that's where that knowledge came from. And the scriptures tells us that they gave man the knowledge to do that. You see, I see your flag, Aki. Go ahead, Akimat. Akimat.
Yeah, T. Just to touch on the pyramid building, I went to Egypt. I was there.
Yes.
And I stood up against them pyramids, the Sphinx, them temples.
Yes.
The city of the dead, all that.
Yeah.
Egypt's Mitzrayim stuff. And man did not come up with that type of ingenuity, that kind of engineering.
Yes.
To put those things together.
Yes.
You, as they say, you cannot, to this day, there's no mortar of those stones, not bricks,
yes.
stones.
Yes.
Stones. And I'm talking about humongous stones.
Yes.
That I'm talking about one stone would be like a 6-foot man. It would take like 4 6-foot men for the height of one stone.
Yes.
In the length of one stone, it would take about 15 men for the length of a stone.
Yes.
And you couldn't even put a sheet of paper in between the stone setting.
Yes.
So yeah, when we read the book of Chinook,
yes,
and it explains right there how the watchers, the ones that fallen, gave man the knowledge of the cutting of root, spells, manipulating the metals, precious stones, and so forth like that. So, man, and I always tell my son and others that when man came into this world, man knew nothing. Everything was already prepared. Yahuah had prepared everything for man. Yes. Only thing man did was name the animals, but man was only influenced by what he saw, what suggestions came to him by hearing, and thoughts in his mind, and that came from Yahuah, and it also came from Hashatan.
Yes, indeed.
And that's why Yahuah said you got to choose. Yes. which way you're going. He gave us that free will to choose to do what's right according to his right ruling, according to his Torah, or the other.
Yes, indeed.
I'm off the mic, Aki.
Yes, Tuda, Aki. Tuda for sharing that. I went to Philadelphia to the, what they call the museum over there. They had, what is that? The Franklin Institute. And they had a what you would call that? Uh, an exhibit. Yeah. Yes, they had an exhibit over there, of Egypt. Yes, of the pyramids and the tombs and stuff like that. And they just had a picture, like a life-size picture, but this is only in small part now. Just like one little area of one of the pyramids, and it wasn't the largest pyramid. They had like a life-size picture of one little area of it where you see the stone, you could stand next to it, and that thing was humongous. Like Aki just said, it make you, it dwarfs you. It, like you stand against it and you're lost. Um, it's family. You got to see it. But the thing is that, man, the scriptures gives us the answer as to how they were able to accomplish that. Okay, because I'm telling you, it's not simple and it's not easy. Okay, but the fallen ones gave man the knowledge. Listen, when Shaitan came to Adam and Kuah and tempted them with the ability to know, even though that was foolish, because not even Shaitan knows half of what Yahuah knows. But when he tempted them and said that, don't you want to know? Don't you want the gift of knowledge? To know good from evil? That is knowledge. To know, the gift of knowledge. That was an amazing temptation. Okay? That was an amazing temptation. You see. And these fallen ones, that's what they were trying to do. You see? That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to infuse the creation with such level of knowledge that the creation would rise up against their creator in pridefulness. You see. So Yahuwah's word tell us how it is that they were able to accomplish these things, because they were given knowledge by the fallen ones. But that's no easy feat. You might look at it, you see. You might look at it, and think, oh, that's not too. No, you got to really see it. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen imagery that put it in perspective for me. And it's nowhere near simple. It's nowhere near simple. You see, it's nowhere near simple. It's something. Akiya Derek mentioned levitation, and I've heard things like that suggested and said, and I don't know. I don't have evidence to say that that was the case. But hey, I don't put anything beyond the scope of it. You see, I don't put anything beyond that. Yes. Yeah. So it's quite amazing. Yes, so concerning aliens, that's what they would be. The fallen ones and the messengers, the servants of Yahuwah. But we got to eradicate that picture of little green men. That was just something put in there to confuse us, you see. All right. Okay, let's go to yeah. Let's go to Mashali chapter 12. Go back to Mashali chapter 12. All right, let me make sure that everybody can see my screen. Bear with me here. All right. Okay, so we're going to go back to Mashali chapter 12, which is where we left off. Proverbs chapter 12. Okay. Okay, so it says, let's go down to, we stopped at verse 14. From the fruit of his mouth one is filled with good, and the work of a man's hands is given back to him. From the fruit of his mouth one is filled with good, and the work of a man's hands is given back to him. So family, going here back to the beginning of verse 14, it says, from the fruit of his mouth one is filled with good. You know, again, I do not want us to confuse truth with fictional traditions. But there is truth to the fact of, you know, when you find a person, I work with somebody that's very negative. Negative, all he do is talk negative. And because he talks so negative, then his behavior is negative, his looks is negative, everything about him is negative. Okay? I work with more than one, but one in particular, super negative. Okay? Everything he says is, he can find nothing good to say, it seems. And because that's the way he talks, he's always grumpy, he's always grouchy, he's always miserable, he's just negative, right? Now, I believe that if he had a more positive outlook, he wouldn't be the way he is, look the way he is, and wouldn't be as frustrated as he is. But even when there is no negative, he's got to create negative. You see, that's just the way he is. And I believe that we have it's in our interest not to walk around just speaking nonsense, speaking evil, because that which you sow is that which you will reap, even from your lips. You see, so if all you do is walk around talking negative all day, and you're gonna reap negative. You see, if all you do all day is talk around, let me use this example. If all you do all day long is walk about and talk about people, gossip about people, then what's going to happen? That's going to come back to you. It's going to come back. It's going to catch up with you. Somebody's going to hear what you said about them, and before you know it, your life is going to be filled with chaos, because what you've been doing is sowing negative. So the negative that you sow does come back to you. So from a perspective of truth, it is wise for us, rather than to walk around and find the negative in everything, it is wise for us to look for the bright areas. And even concerning our lives and ourselves, speak what is good and uplifting concerning ourselves, right? And concerning others around us. That's not to deny the facts, because where there is dysfunction and where there are situations that needs to be addressed, you can't ignore them. In other words, if you have kids that's a just rotten mess, you can't ignore the fact that they're a rotten mess, and that if maybe they're doing bad things, but you're not going to say that they're doing bad things, and you're not going to confront them about it. I'm just going to tell them how good they are. No, you're a liar. That's lying. No, you got to address the problem, and then you speak to them concerning what they can be. You see, so your right speaking, I don't want to say positive speaking, because that can sound like something else. But your right speaking will not ignore bad behavior. You see? So to speak right and uplifting things is not to ignore bad behavior, bad practices, and just say, well, I'm only going to speak positive. Nah, that's something else, you see. But we need to understand the power of the tongue. You see, we need to understand the power of the tongue, the power of our words. Because your words can change your attitude. Your words can change your direction. Your words can change whether you're going to be lazy or you're going to accomplish some stuff. If all you do is get up and tell yourself how tired you are, you know what's going to happen? You're going to remain tired. If all you do is get up and tell yourself how bad life is, then the only thing that's going to happen, life is going to continue to be bad. But even if you get up and say, you know what? Things aren't the way that I'd like for them to be, but I'm going to do this, that, and that to try to make it better. You declare it and you sincerely mean it. You're going to find yourself acting on doing things to make it better. Okay? And so there is a place for that according to Yahuah's word. And it is a proven fact. Okay? And so it says, from the fruit of his mouth one is filled with good, and the work of a man's hands is given back to him. So that which you work, whatever you put your strength into, you will receive a harvest from. You put your strength into doing evil, you're going to receive a harvest from the evil that you've done. You put your strength into doing good, you're going to receive a harvest from the good that you have done. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who listens to advice is wise. So you can't tell a fool anything. A fool's ways is right in their own eyes. No matter how jacked it is, no matter how messed up it is, you cannot correct a fool. That's why that one is a fool. A fool don't hear anybody other than himself. And he has a propensity to hear other fools. Can't hear nothing wise, but can hear other fools. So if you try to correct a fool and you're making sense, that fool will get on you. But let another fool come along and speak, and that fool will hear that other fool clearly, but can't hear no wisdom, you see. So the way of a fool is right in his own eyes. Because he perceives his way to be right, there is nothing that you can tell him to change his mind. That's a fool. But he who listens to advice is wise. It doesn't matter how much you think you have it figured out. There is always value in listening to advice. Take this into consideration. If you're designing something, if you're trying to develop something, it would be foolish of you to think that your invention is the best that this thing could be. Or if you're trying to accomplish something and you've thought of a way of getting it done without getting counsel from anybody else, if you think that your way that you came up with without talking to anybody else is the best way of doing it, then that's a sign that you're a foolish person. A wise person will seek out counsel among many people. In other words, there's another word for that. It's called brainstorming. You see, as a people family, number one, as a people, we've got to begin to change our way of thinking. We've got to begin to change our way of operating. You see? And what we need to do as a people, what we have got to do as a people, for us to become fruitful, for us to become substantive, for us to become productive, we have got to come to a place where we can come together, we can put our heads together, we can reason together. And when we have that kind of humility and that kind of wisdom where we can come together and listen to each other, you know, the only good thing that can come from it, the only good thing that can come from it is wisdom, wise actions. Because we're able not just to rely on our own understanding, but we're able to listen to criticisms and learn from the criticism. You see, we were able to gain ideas from others who may have thought about it differently than we thought about it, and we might be able to even marry ideas to make it better. But if we are someone that think that, listen, I know how to get it done and nobody else does, and my way is the best way and my way is the only way, then we're going to have problems. But if we can come together and reason through the situation, put our heads together, think about it, listen to each other's ideas, at the end of the day, you know what's going to happen? We're going to come up with a better way. That's how people, even people in the world, get ahead who have some level of wisdom. That's how they get ahead. They know the value of brainstorming. Okay? They know the value of brainstorming. So, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who listens to advice is wise. A fool's wrath is known at once, but a clever one covers shame. He who speaks truth declares righteousness, but a false witness declares deceit. Rash speaking is like piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is healing. The lip of truth is established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Truth stands forever. A lying tongue is only for a moment. Deceit is in the heart of those who plot evil, but counselors of peace have joy. Deceit is in the heart of those who plot evil, but counselors of peace have joy. No harm befalls the righteous, but the wrong shall be filled with evil. No harm befalls the righteous, but the wrong shall be filled with evil. Now that brings us to a question. Didn't Yahuah say here that no harm befalls the righteous? So how is it that I know of people who are living for Yahuah who are afflicted with sickness and disease? Didn't Yahuah say that no harm befalls the righteous? So why is it that people that I know are afflicted with sickness and disease? Well, family, that is where we got to put things in their right perspective. You see, we can't forget where we are. We cannot forget the condition that we're in. We are a people in captivity. What Yahuah promises to his people is that when we are regathered out of our captivity, that he will not visit any of the diseases of Matzrayim upon us. You see? But while we are in Matzrayim, we will experience the diseases of Matzrayim. But when we are delivered out of Matzrayim, when we are in that place, the place that he has chosen, none of the diseases of Matzrayim will be visited upon the people of Yahuah. That's one of the reasons why we know that the place, that the appointed place is in fact a very special place. And so even when people try to set up try to do their this and their that in these strange places, Yahuah does not honor it, because this land is a defiled land. These lands are a profaned land. These lands are not set apart. And so when we go about even saying that we're keeping the feast here and we're keeping the feast there, we're keeping them in what Yahuah call high places, because it's not an appointed place. You can't have set apart things in defiled places. What sense does that make? That you would have set apart things in defiled places. The moment you put a set apart thing in a defiled space, you have defiled the thing. That's why we are defiled. That's why our people continue to suffer, because we're in a defiled place. When we are gathered out of this defiled place, the promise of Yahuah is that I will not visit any of the diseases, the sicknesses of Matzrayim will not be on you. That's why, family, when we read from the book of Shamut chapter 15, That's why Mariam and the people of Yashar were so joyful when they sang that song to Yahuah, when they said, "You are Yahu Rapha, the one who heals us," because Yahuah delivered them from their sicknesses and their diseases, because he brought them into a set apart place. Now, going back to the text, he says, "No harm befalls the righteous, but the wrong shall be defiled with evil. Lying lips are an abomination to Yahuah, but those who deal truly are his delight." Those who deal in truth are his delight. Lying lips are an abomination to Yahuah. You know, these days, lying has become so easy, family, that we got to watch ourselves. Lying has become so easy. You look at TV and you see people, you work with people, you encounter people where lying is just a natural part of life. The politicians lie, the school teacher lies, the judge lies, the teacher lies, everybody lies. If you're not careful, if we're not careful, we can become so caught up in the culture that we forget what Yahuah has to say about lying. Yahuah hates a liar. Yahuah hates lying. Yep. You talk too much and you will certainly lie. You see. But we live in a culture where lying has become the norm. People see nothing wrong with it. When you catch them in a lie, they just laugh it off. You see, they're liars. Liars. Just liars. Now it says, "So lying lips are an abomination to Yahuah, but those who deal truly are his delight." A clever man is concealing knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaim folly. What that means is it's really a poor translation. But a clever man will seek to hold on to knowledge. A clever man will seek to hold on to knowledge. Not that he won't share his knowledge, but he seeks to hold fast to knowledge. But the heart of fools proclaims folly. The hand of the hard worker rules, but the lazy is put to compulsory labor. The hand of the hard worker rules, but the lazy is put to compulsory labor. You know, family, here's another thing when you work in workplaces that I've found. I talked about the lying lips and how people lie so freely, even on the job and things like that. But you know what? Another thing I find on the job, I find a bunch of thieves. I find a bunch of thieves on the job. I find people who go to work. Yes, now listen. I understand that these people are thieves themselves. Okay? I understand that these CEOs are thieves themselves, deserving stiff sentences. They're robbers, they're crooks. I understand that. Because they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute, hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute, while the people doing the hard labor, they're making pennies compared to them. I understand that. But not only do I find liars, so it's all throughout the whole system. Because the ones at the top are doing it, they're lying and thieving, but the ones at the bottom are doing the same thing. So on the job, what I find a bunch of thieves and liars. I find people who, if they feel comfortable with you, they'll admit to you that, I put in more time than I work, or I milk the clock, or, whatever. You're stealing. You're stealing. And then you're lying. You see, our responsibility, yep, lying on their taxes and everything. Our responsibility is, yeah, and then call it a loophole. Our responsibility, family, when we go on this plantation, you put in a fair day's labor. You let Yahuah handle the rest. Please understand, I'm not telling you to go kill yourself for the slave master. But our sovereign is Yahuah. And when we do what we know is right, Yahuah will handle the rest of it. But what happens when we take justice and judgment into our own hands? Then we don't leave him no space to act on our behalf, because we already took the matter into our own hands. But when Yahuah fixes it, that fix is so much better than anything that we can do. You see, just let him do it in his timing. You do your part and let him do the rest. All right? But I find that even not on the job, if I just work the way that I should work, there are people who criticize me. Because by me doing what I'm supposed to do in a manner that is reasonable, they get mad because now I'm shortening their day, because I'm not dragging my feet enough to make the day longer so that they can collect some more overtime. Now for me, that's like torture. And there's work to be done, but yet I'm running around, just walking around, twiddling my fingers and my toes, sitting around talking nonsense, talking about nothing. To me, that's torture. To me, that's a massive waste of time. But to them, that is beautiful. Y'all make no sense. All right, now so Yahuah says, the hand of the hard worker rules, but the lazy is put to compulsory labor. Yahuah elevates you over the wicked. I know he does. He elevates you over the lazy. He elevates you over the wicked. He elevates you over those who plot against you. I know he does. Not because you do anything special, but because you do what you're supposed to do. I know he does because he has done it for me many times. Sometimes, when you are just an average worker, there are people that will make you look super because of their laziness. I don't think I'm such great of a worker, but I've worked with people that make me look good because they're so lazy. And they don't realize that's what they're doing. So you give a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Go ahead, Aki.
Yes, to keep touch on the doing a fair day's labor, put in the work, and you're right. Just go ahead and put in your fair days of work. Do what
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you know what you do, that you have the favor of the eyes of Yahuah is looking on you, and you have His favor and His sight.
Yes.
But the world that we live in today, that I mean, even if you just do an average day's work,
Yeah.
because the people are so, what can I say? They are so
Lackadaisical.
dysfunctional.
Yeah.
They're so dysfunctional and so diluted
Yeah.
that they they ain't even trying to work. They
Yes.
ain't trying to pay attention.
Yes.
They So you can go in and be average, and like you said, and you be head and shoulders above them heathens,
Absolutely.
because they not even trying to do what's right.
Absolutely.
I mean, my Ashar, she tell me about them folks that she worked with, and it's just a crying shame how the people,
Yes.
how they are today, and especially the ones in government that got them government jobs.
Yes. Yes.
They the worst.
Yes. Yes. I know it, Aki. I've seen it firsthand. Indeed. I hope I didn't cut you off. I just wanted to agree with you there so greatly. Um, but I see that firsthand. We talk. They talk about financial trouble and the government don't have this and that. And what I've personally seen in government and in government spending is that there is, from what I've seen, because of working in positions that allow me to see that, I see massive rip-offs, massive waste, just massive getting over. Because people with working in these government jobs, I'll give you an example. Now I have many examples, but even I'm just going to use another one here real quick. Um, when I was when I was when they're collecting child support from me, and I needed to reach somebody, and that's before they moved the office. The office was in my city. They moved it to another city. I would be trying to call somebody, and that one time the church I was a part of, the child support office was right above the church in a high rise building. I'd be trying to call them and would get no answer. Call them all day long, get no answer. Walk upstairs, and everybody that belong in the child support office, you know where they at? They
Really.
standing outside smoking cigarettes, Aki. they standing out they're standing outside smoking cigarettes. And you can't get a hold of nobody in the office. That includes supervisor down to the lowest worker. Everybody, all day long, they're standing outside, just having all summer long, chit chatting. You see, and they're getting paid, and they'll be there till overtime kicks in, and they're getting paid. You see, and and
Yeah.
and it's a shame when you see stuff like that, but it's across the board. You see, it's across the board. You
Yes,
see.
you absolutely right. It's across the board. I can tell you some situations. Had this one guy, and I work with DOS,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell you I do my job is protective operation division.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically what I do is a protective security detail for the ambassador overseas.
Yes.
So anyway, this one cat working with the government, with the state. I mean, this guy, he goes out on a mission, and he sets off a distress call with the radio, and he spun up every doggone national defense, the NORAD, Special Forces, Delta. He spun every last one of them up on a false alarm, and they didn't even fire him. That was his first incident. Yeah, and his second incident was sexual harassment.
Wow.
The second, yeah, he was harassing uh, a co-worker, and saying things about it. Yeah, I know you was doing it with them cats. Come on and do it with me, and this, that, and other. And she complained on him, and it went nowhere.
Wow.
They did nothing. Third incident, he on vacation and had a girl come over to his house, and he in a sense kidnapped her, locked her in the closet, had his way with her, and had her there for like a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and finally let her go. She made a complaint. It went nowhere.
Wow.
This clown is still on the clock.
Wow.
So it's almost like, what the heck? What somebody got to do? Act of what he got? Commit murder? Is this how they get fired around here? Committing murder, and they probably get off.
Oh, they get off with that too.
Yeah. But then now I got another incident with my Shah. She has her supervisor, and her supervisor is a piece of work. She's they come to find out that she working at Voodoo. She works Voodoo.
Oh.
Yeah, and they went. She was off work, and they went to her office, and they seen a doll up in there, and the girl said, "What is that doll over there?" And they come to find it was a doggone voodoo doll. Yeah. So they but the point is that this particular woman, she's their supervisor, but yet she'll have meetings and don't even show up to her own meetings that she set appointments for, and she don't show up for government the inspector general meetings that are mandatory meetings by the inspector general and all. I mean, my wife's just saying that, she just don't, she come and go as she please, and the director says nothing.
Yes.
So, as we see,
Indeed.
they just, folks is doing what they want to do, and all we gotta do is what we do, and we do what we supposed to do as a norm. And sure, we are highly head and shoulders above the rest.
Indeed.
I'm off the mic, Key.
Indeed. Tada. And you know what, to point out is what we need to understand too is that even though we might be head and shoulders above, the system will not readily acknowledge. And even when they do acknowledge, they will not readily, unless Yahuah really just, make them do it, they will not readily, how should I put it? What's the word I'm looking for here? Give you your what you justly deserve, what you've worked for. They won't. The word's not coming to me right now. Yes, and even their acknowledgement might be begrudging. But they will not give you your just reward, you see. And unless Yahuah move them, and He will, you see, because He'll cause them to do things they don't want to do, and then they don't understand why they did it, you see. And that's just the reality of it. But we do what we do, what Yahuah has empowered us to do, and what Yahuah has empowered us to do, family. At the end of the day, He refreshes and He restores, and we carry on. You see.
Well,
But
one more
yes,
example, Key.
yes, Aki.
Now, a lot of times, and really, it doesn't pay for us. I tell cats. What you gonna tell? You gonna tell evil on evil? You gonna tell
Exactly.
tell the evil taskmaster that the what the evil door is doing? What you expect? Would you expect to get some justice out of that or something? You
Right.
know, I said leave them. I said leave them fools alone. I
Mm-hmm.
said they got a rope around their neck. A
Mm-hmm.
rope around their neck. It's just a matter of time before they walk off the edge and hang themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now I had a program manager, and this guy. I mean, we worked together. We was on the same team when we was working in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Then he came to Afghanistan and he became the program manager. I was like the team leader.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, this cat he likes drinking. He drinking, drink. He's straight juice head.
Mm-hmm.
So we having drills, base defense drills, and he didn't show up for
Mm-hmm.
accountability.
Mm.
He in his room. He passed out in his room.
Wow.
So his minions they covered for him.
Yeah.
Then we had another drill, another drill, rape. Well, no, it wasn't even a drill. It was a incident that happened. One of the bases got hit, came under attack. Special force base came under attack.
Mm.
So we did accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, one of the Afghani military compounds came under attack.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he's nowhere to be found. He's passed out. They said he was passed out in his room because it was on a weekend.
Mm.
So he passed out in his room, laid up in his bed in a crucifix position,
Wow.
comatose. They couldn't even revive him. They had to give him IV. They said they had to put a dog on the defibrillator to
Wow.
bring him to consciousness.
Wow.
But yeah, but that's the kind of foolishness that I be dealing with at work.
Yeah.
That these cats they so complacent in in their wickedness that they do. They go around telling everybody, telling us what, don't do this, don't do that. But yet the things they telling us not to do, they up there doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's just a matter of time, just as Yahuah say, the wicked, their folly is just for a moment, and Yahuah gets them in the end. That's for sure, because I've seen it firsthand.
Indeed. And what happened is the danger with when you continue to act in folly and there is no correction, you are eventually swallowed up by your folly. You see. So when you continue to get away with stuff that is actually dangerous, but you continue to get away with it, the people who continue to make it possible for you to get away with it don't realize that with each time they cover and with each time they enable, and what they're actually doing is they're actually signing your death certificate with every just another stroke of the pen toward that end. So they might be thinking they're doing doing you a favor, or someone is doing one a favor by covering for their wickedness, when in reality they're only sealing their destruction. And so,
Yes.
we praise Yahuah for a hard taskmaster, because that's who Yahuah used to get us in line. And when he's no longer needed, you know what happened? Yahuah get rid of him. And so that's the way it is. It says in verse 25. So verse 24 said, "The hand of the hard worker rules, but the lazy is put to compulsory labor." Anxiety, verse 25, in the heart of man causes depression. That's Yahuah. Yahuah, he's just a great physician. He's a great counselor. He's just awesome. There is nothing that we go through and nothing that we experience that Yahuah does not know and does not tell us of beforehand. Anxiety. Anxiety, think about that. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, right? But you know, when you're dealing with anxiety, so anxiety left untreated will lead to depression. And a lot of people who deal with anxiety, if that anxiety is not treated, if you're not careful, it could lead them into a state of what you call it now, where they want to kill themselves. Okay? So anxiety in the heart of man causes depression. But a good work makes him glad. So, you know, anxiety is a difficult thing to deal with. Anxiety also feels very real to the one going through it. I know this because I praise Yahuah that he delivered my Asha. But for some reason, there was a period of maybe about a year or a little bit more than a year where my wife was going through anxiety. I don't know why it was. We don't know why it was. The doctors could never told us, never gave us any reason. But she would go through these anxiety attacks. Just out of nowhere it started. And the only thing we could do is cry out to Yahuah and ask Yahuah for help. I would have to get up in the middle of the night, take her to the hospital because her heart would be racing, almost beating out of her chest. And it just wasn't normal. As she continued to deal with it and we continued to pray about it, she began to learn to, when she began to feel it coming on, because she could feel it coming on, one thing that she would do is she would make herself busy with something else. She would try to start thinking about something different than what she was thinking about, and she would try to do something to get her mind off of it. And I believe right here is where Yahuah is giving us help even with that. It says anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good work makes him glad. I believe that their medication for anxiety, all their medications have side effects. You know, and I understand that there are cases of severe anxiety. Again, we're living in the land where we're experiencing the diseases of Matzrayim. But, you know, I believe that what's helpful, if you're suffering from anxiety, it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm not trying to at all trivialize it, make it look simple. But one of the first things and one of the best ways to try to counter it, praying to Yahuah first and foremost, seeking Him. But also, when you begin to feel it coming on, get your mind away from whatever it is that you were thinking about. Busy yourself with something else. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good work makes him glad. You see, I believe that if you can distract yourself from whatever it is that triggered it by focusing on something else, doing something else, that will help you to overcome it and alleviate it. Okay? The righteous is a guide to his neighbor. The upright is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wrong leads them astray. The upright is a guide to his neighbor. You know, when I started working at my current job, the environment was quite different than it is today when I started working there. Had a few people, still have some racist people that I work with. You know, it comes out in their conversation. But had a few people, who they were quite outright with their hatred. Have this one man that I work with. When I started working there, I never forgot, man. It was this guy. He was a young man from down south somewhere. He was in his early 20s. And when he whenever he speak to you, I saw him, he came there twice, but this one time was the first time I saw him. Whenever he spoke to you, everything was yes sir, no sir, it was just really respectful. This man that I work with, just really for no reason, he yelled at this young man as if he was talking to a little boy, just yelling at him. Like, really, it was unnecessary. Really, really, when I say it was unnecessary, it was truly unnecessary. The guy did not do anything. And what he was yelling at him about, he shouldn't even have been saying anything to him about it at that time. But he just wanted to find a reason to mess with him. And he yelled at him like in a real nasty way. And I just started working there. And what I did was I went over, and this is a guy that boasts about his experience of managing people and running, warehouse, some for Walmart or whatever the case was. He yelled at this young man for no reason, and man, I felt terrible. And I went over to the young man. At the time, I didn't realize it. But I told him, I said, the people in the front office comes in at this time. You should call in the morning and make a complaint. Now, at the time, I didn't realize that the people that were answering the phone, like Aki just said, how can you report the works of the wicked to the wicked? Right? I didn't realize at the time because I just started there. I didn't know well enough the way things were. But I said to him, you should call the front office and ask for so-and-so and make a complaint about what happened here tonight. He said, no, it's okay, it don't bother me, whatever. Now, that in itself came from, he was a Christian, and as I was talking to him, he took the attitude of, Jesus will fix it, so on and so forth. And that's where Christianity dumb us down, because under no circumstances are you to stand up and say enough is enough, according to the slave master's doctrine, you see. Yeah, so I say it's okay. And I realized later on that even if he had called, it wouldn't have mattered even still. It wouldn't have mattered. Given the people that he would have been talking to, it wouldn't have mattered. But you know what I've observed, though, since I've been there now over these years, and Yahuah has even elevated me over this man, that because of my attitude and because of the standard that I've set in that place, which really I set it for myself first and foremost. What I've noticed is, I didn't tell anybody you got to behave this way, but what I've noticed is their attitudes and their language and their behavior towards people that they don't necessarily like have changed. You see, there are certain groups, certain people that would come in, certain nationalities of people would come in and they'd be very nasty with them. But because of the way I carry myself, they realize that, you know what, it might be best for me not even to go there. You see, and so the environment, the atmosphere have changed. And while I didn't realize that people take note, but my boss have actually said something to me about it, talking about the change that he has observed because of my presence, And so when Yahuah says this, I can certainly bear witness because I've seen it, you see. When he says, the upright is a guide to his neighbor. The upright is a guide to his neighbor. Now, I want to be careful. I'm not patting myself on the shoulder. I'm not declaring myself to be anything. I do seek to walk according to the standards of Yahuah. It says the upright is a guide to his neighbor. In other words, family, if you walk and you hold yourself to a certain standard, if you don't hold yourself to any standard, you know what's going to happen? People going to talk to you anyway, whatever they want to talk to you. They're going to treat you any way they want to treat you. They're going to do to you whatever they see fit. But if you hold yourself to a standard, even when their stupid pride may cause them to punch you in the mouth because you hold yourself to a standard, they'll do that too. You watch the movie The Birth of a Nation, you see where he butt what's his name in his mouth with the gun because he took a stance. He says, I'm gonna hold myself to a certain standard. They didn't like that. Knock out his teeth with the butt of a gun. Yeah, so they'll do that to you. But you know what, in the end? They feel the guilt, well, it just make them feel like I don't know what, there's no way they can justify their dirty behavior. You see, there's no way. You gave them no justification for their dirty behavior. So the upright is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wrong leads them astray. The lazy one has no game to roast. The lazy one has no game to roast. Lazy people don't go out and hunt when they should be hunting. The lazy one, therefore, they have nothing to eat. The lazy one has no game to roast, but the hard worker prizes his possessions. Can't be lazy. We got to be people who work hard. Yahuah continued to emphasize that for his people. As a matter of fact, he says that a man who does not work should not eat. We can't be lazy people. Yahuah does not expect Yasharal to be a lazy nation. We got to be willing to work. You see? We got to be willing to work. The lazy one has no game to roast, but the hard worker prizes his possessions. In the way of righteousness, in the way of set apartness is life. And in its pathway, there is no death. In the way of set apartness is life. And in its pathway, there is no death. In other words, if you will walk upright before Yahuah, family, consider this, my brothers and my sisters. How many at our age or younger, because we make a decision to live a life for Yahuah, how many people do we see in our age group who have not made it to our age because they choose to live a ruthless life, a disobedient life? They choose to live a different way, a way that leads them into conflict and even into death, a way that leads them into chaos. So when we make a decision to live for Yahuah, it actually even preserves our lives. You see, yes. How many have we seen who made the decision to live in opposition of Yahuah? And if they're not dead, their lives are in chaos. The temptation might come to us and we might feel like, I can't do this no more because this, that, and the other. And then when we look at all the confusion there is among us as a people, when you look at all of the stuff that people take and make an issue when it don't really have to be an issue, and all of the nonsense that goes on, sometimes it can become discouraging, and you might say, you know what, I don't want no more of this, I can't take it no more, and it can become frustrating, and it can become heavy, and you might begin to be, the enemy might want to tempt you into feeling like, you know what, just leave it alone, might as well just give up. After all, I don't know what's truth anymore, I don't know what's right anymore, I don't know what's wrong anymore. I might as well just throw in the towel. You see? Now the enemy, he trying to wear us out, family. He trying to get us to give up. But when we give up, you know what we're going to go to? You know what we're turning to? We're turning to swift destruction. Because when we turn away from Yahuah, what we're turning to death, we're turning to chaos, we're turning to, you think it's bad now? You think the confusion is bad now? You think all of the nonsense, you think it's bad now? No, it's worse on the other side. Because there will be no peace. There will be no peace in your house. There will be no peace in your job, because, you see, lawless people, people who do not live by any standard, they're not at all, they have no filter. They're not limited to where they will go, to what they will do, and to what they'll say. And they have no issue with dragging you into their mess. But when you walk with Yahuah, Yahuah preserves you. Yahuah keeps you. Yahuah gives you a sound mind. He allows you to think and to see the plot of the enemy, and you don't get ensnared in his trap. But without Yahuah, we always end up in the traps of the enemy. And what we will find is that in our homes, there is no shalom. There is no peace. There is just no peace. There is nothing but chaos. Chaos in our relationships, in our marriage, in our family, in our jobs. In everything that we do, there is chaos. You know? Yeah, we face difficulties. We face hardships, but with Yahuah, they're much easier. Yahuah give us shalom, and he provides. He make a way. He says that he would prepare a table before us, and he certainly has spread a table before us even in the wilderness. He has spread a table before us in the presence of our enemies, and he does anoint our head with oil. He causes our cups to overflow. We just got to remember to be thankful and to be mindful of the great acts of the merciful Yahuah, because he is always moving on our behalf. And so let us not take them for granted, because Yahuah does marvelously for us each and every day. But family, if we begin to pay too much attention to what's out there, if we begin to look too much at the pasture on the other side, we're going to end up in Sodom and Gomorrah, because the grass will look greener over there. It will look more brilliant. It will look more flourishing. But that's because you don't see the brown spots on their lawn. You don't see all the dryness beneath the greenery. You see, what you see is just a facade intended to entice and to entrap. But the fact of the matter is, the side of the lawn on which we live is much greener than the other side. It is much more substantive than the other side. It is much more life-giving than the other side. And it brings much more shalom than the other side brings. And so, let us keep our focus on Yahuah and continue to seek him in spite of how difficult it might be. May we continue to seek Yahuah and hold fast to him. Continue to ask him to make all things clear, to make all things plain, and just to give us strength to continue. Because he said, it is only those who endure to the end that shall be redeemed. It is only those who endure to the end that shall be redeemed. And so may Yahuah help us in our endurance. Hallelujah. Well, family, we're going to stop here in Mashali chapter 12 for this evening. And Yahuah willing, next Shabbat, we're going to pick up in chapter 13. I could be reading from some other text, but I want to get through Mashali here. And then we can look at something else. But try to stick to Mashali and get through it, because there's much more substance to gain from it. And as we go on, I believe that, as we continue, we're going to see wisdom that really applies to our day-to-day lives in a way that will truly be helpful to us. Things that we know but may have forgotten. So as we go on, getting into these next chapters, chapter 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, going up, we're going to see Yahuah speaking to us in ways that I believe will really speak to us where we are. All right, so I see your flag. Please go ahead, Aki, and if there's anyone else that have any comments or questions would like to come to the mic, feel free to do so before we close out. Go ahead, Aki Matat Yahoo.
Yes, okay, another awesome, another awesome study that we had today.
Praise Yahuah.
Praise Yahuah. As well, you're always giving us the good insight, true insight of Yahuah's the bar.
Praise Yahuah. Halal Huyah.
But that was we got a factional foundation coming up right tomorrow.
Not tomorrow. We were together last Thursday, so it won't be this
Oh
week.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a thing that I was going to email you on it, but I guess I ask you right now is, you know, in Christianity, you know, they got that gap where Yahusha, when he was 12 years old, and you know he went into the Haykal, spoke, and then all of a sudden he disappeared and then reappeared when he was like 30 years old, or was it 30 or
33.
I think it was 30 years old. So that gap in between, you know, I remember me asking one of them pastors, you know, okay, you know, where was he between this period and that period? Wow, you know, they couldn't even give me a straight answer.
Yeah.
You know, so I was wondering if you had any idea.
Yeah. You know, Aki, it's interesting. There is uh, there's a text. I believe it's what's the name of it again? I believe it's the Gospel of they say the Gospel, but of course that wouldn't be the proper what's the name. I'm going by what they give though, because I don't credit the book because it's contrary, it's contradictory. Um, um, and to the other to the other scriptures, but I believe it's called they call it, but in Abari there's not such a word as gospel. So the Bashura of Judah of Yahudas, I believe is what it are. If it's not that one, it's another one that kind of give some information about his years growing up that goes beyond what we read in the other text. But again, I don't really I don't put much worth into that writing because I have a lot of issues with it, you know. But so outside of that, we don't see much spoken of those years other than what we can know from that is that it was spent developing, I guess, him growing up, but there isn't much known outside of that key. So really I don't have anything anything more to add than what we have in before us that I could present.
Yeah, you know, before I came to know who Yahuah was, and this I believe this is back in 2009. So I was reading something. I found something, and it had mentioned that you know, when we was calling him out of his name, calling him wrong, that he took his travels had took him over into India, and he was over there speaking to the people over in India. So I don't know how true that is, and so that was something that I've came across.
It's 19 hours.
Got you. Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar, not aware. Quite possible, but I'm not familiar. Aki, Tuda for bringing that up. Aki Willie, I see your flag. Aki, please go ahead.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Aki.
Well, wonderful lesson like always. Always grateful to hear the wonderful word of Yahuwah.
Praise
And my question was in concerns of, it was more so concerning with the hair. Cause I see in what was it? Talking about, well, it's specifically talking about the man. It said, does not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it's a shame unto you? And I'm asking about that because I see that in the scriptures that there was something about the Nazarite vow and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure if if the Nazarite vow can be. I'm not saying that it can't, but I don't know according to scripture that it can actually be done today. Because I'm thinking that the Nazarite vow was concerning the of Yahshua that was from that place of I guess Nazarene. I guess that's what it's called.
Not
And
serene. Mm-hmm.
yeah, not Tarim. And I was wondering, well, what would Shaul say that, or if that is just some mistranslation from Christianity. So I just wanted to know what if there's a tie into there with which that Shaul was asking about, or if that was actually scripture for nature to teach a man not to have long hair. So I guess you can come at it however you want to, but I just have that's just a question that I'm wondering about.
Yes.
So ta-da.
Praise Father and to the key. That's a great question. That's a great question. I forgive the route that I'm gonna take in responding to your question, but I'm going to start off a little bit. I'm gonna start off kind of taking the scenic route, so to speak. Um, my wife and I was watching this thing on PBS, uh, um, where it was a tour through Europe. Okay, you can go on these cruises and go through Europe, on these boat cruises and stuff like that. So on PBS, they put highlights of these tours through Europe on there. So the one that we were watching was dealing with Germany and Martin Luther. So they were talking a lot about the history of the Catholic Church and the church itself. And so one of the things they showed, there were a couple of things they showed. They were talking about how they showed, what some of the reasons why Martin Luther kind of rose up in protest of the Catholic Church, in protest of not the Catholic Church so much, but in protest of the doctrines of the Catholic Church. And one of the reasons was because they were freely, even though Martin Luther himself did the same thing in his translation, but they were freely writing in rules and laws and different things, calling it scripture. They were writing in stuff, just making up stuff. One of the things they made up was a script, what they call a scripture. They wrote in a piece of what they call scripture. They wrote in a piece of writing that says that if the people can actually pay money to shorten the amount of time that their loved ones who have died would spend in purgatory. So they wrote this in, and they began to preach it to the people. And they put an offering box at the front of the churches. And when the people would come in, they would drop their money in the offering box. And the people would think that by putting the money in the offering box, the money that went into the offering box was shortening the amount of time their people had to spend in so-called purgatory. And then that money would be sent to Rome. Okay, that money would eventually be sent to Rome, And that helped to make the church even wealthier because a lot of people were putting money in that box to shorten the amount of time their people would spend in purgatory. Now, imagine this, and to show you how much money people were putting in the box. Imagine people who they have people they love that died, and the doctrine of purgatory, you know, the doctrine of hell and purgatory is terrible, right? It puts fear in the heart of the Christian, right? And so people having loved ones die. Imagine a wife having her husband die, the husband having wife die, children dying, and so on and so forth, child having parents dying. These people would take all the money they can find and put in this box, because the more you put in, the more of a guarantee it is that your loved one is going to come out of purgatory quick. So the church made a whole lot of money off of that. Now, the reason why I tell you that story, is to remind your family that the Bible, let me put it up on the screen, the Bible, talking about the Bible now, the Bible. The book got its name from the Christians, and they named it just like they named Sunday in honor of their pagan sun deity, the day of the sun. So that's what Sunday is. Where's my Bible picture? And just like they make Sunday in honor of the sun, the Bible also got its name in honor of a pagan deity. Okay, let's not forget that. So when I talk about the Bible is a text in which a lot of fraud took place. They wrote stuff in and they took stuff out. They put whole verses in. They put whole chapters in. As a matter of fact, the scriptures did not have chapters and verses. It was the church that introduced chapters and verses. Okay? So we have to keep in mind that when we read things, some things we don't have all of the writings in many cases to prove everything that they have corrupted. But keep in mind that some things, not everything that they say Shaul said, or that they say this one say that one actually said it. We need to keep that in mind. They say Yahusha said things that Yahusha never said. Matthew chapter 28 verse 19 is an example of that. They say Yahusha said, go into the world baptizing all people in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Yahusha never said a single word like that. The church itself admit that they wrote that entire verse. And there are many other things that they have written in. So keep that in mind when we see text like that about what Shaul said. Okay? Now, so it was common for certain people in Yasharal. The way the scriptures refer to it, even the very language is a giveaway to me. Because when the scriptures refer to the hair of our people, the hair of our men, the men with long hair, when the scriptures refer to them, to their hair, it doesn't say long hair. What does it say? Wait, let me see. Let me see if anybody read it. Let me see if anybody else have seen it. 1 second. Let me see my screen. Give me 1 second. When we read in the scriptures, when it talk about our men with long hair, it doesn't say long hair. That sounds European, don't it? It says locks. That's right. It talk about locks. Don't talk about long hair. Right? So even that language in itself to me is a giveaway that something is wrong. Right? It talk about locks. Don't talk about long hair. Shaul was not talking about Fabio. You see what I'm saying? Shaul would not have been talking about Fabio. You see? So so that even the very language to me is suspect. I don't think that it belongs in there, period. I believe it's just another one of their ruthless inventions, Aki. All right. Now, Let me go to Akut Sharon. Please go ahead, Akut Sharon.
Thank you for a great teaching.
Praise Father Akut. Praise Yahuah.
I had a question about the shofar music.
Yes.
I was searching earlier today for shofar music or apps,
Yes.
and I found a few videos, and I found from the Play Store an app. I think it's called Mighty Shofar.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, my question was, I was looking for something from Averine,
Mm-hmm.
or at least Hebrew Israelite, and I couldn't find anything. Where's my question? I put it.
Yeah, I think I had seen a bit of the question.
Yeah.
If it.
Yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I guess essentially what I was asking is it okay to use the shofar from other sources than
Mm-hmm.
Abarim or um,
Yeah.
because the only thing I could find was like from Jewish or Christian sources,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a whole lot of confidence with that.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I understand. Well, Akut, the shofar, the sounding of the shofar in itself, and really most of what you find online is actually not an actual blowing of the shofar, but it's what it would be. It's a digital composition of that sound. So most of them is actually not an actual blowing of the shofar. For example, at the introduction, when I come on and I put that intro on, you hear the shofar in there, and it's not an actual shofar blowing, but it is a digital composition, and that too came from I guess you would came from a Jewish source. Now, just the shofar itself, I don't the sound itself I don't see an issue with, but preferably I'd prefer to have just the natural sound, us blowing it. Preferably that's what I would prefer, you know. And so I understand your concern, because when we think about music, for me, I don't listen to Christian music,
Mm-hmm.
because they were written to esteem an idol,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't listen to Christian music. Now, the shofar itself, it's just the sound of the instrument. It's not giving esteem to an idol in its, where you have a name attached to one and so forth. So I see it somewhat different. Nonetheless, my preference would be to have just a recorded blowing of a true blowing of the shofar, and I recognize that we don't really have that out there. And maybe one of these days I'll work on creating a recording of the shofar, blowing the shofar, and it won't be any music attached to it, perhaps, or maybe I could attach some kind of sound to it later through editing, but that may be helpful. But the sounding of the shofar in itself, there's nothing else attached to it. I don't I don't really see an issue with that. If there was something else connected, giving esteem to some idol, where somebody listening to it, you're hearing that being professed, then that would be something else, I think.
In my research earlier today, I discovered that there are combinations of shofar blasts,
Mm-hmm.
and the app that I have here is called Mighty Shofar. It has Yemenite, Gemsbach,
Mm-hmm.
and Ram Shofar, and then it has the four keys. And I don't know how to say these names, but for instance, there is the Terua,
Mm-hmm. Terua.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
you know the four keys,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
primary keys, and um, you can record sequences, combinations of these four keys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in your practice with the shofar, have you do you have some like music sheets that you've come across that has the combination of keys and then for different purposes? And I don't want to take too much time up on the mic. I'll go ahead and release the mic at this time.
Oh, not a problem, Akut. It's wonderful hearing you, by the way, and Tuda for bringing up a very important question. Also, I am quite skeptical about those keys that they suggest. I because I think that they're possibly very Jewish in origin. So I don't, uh, anything that we find that is too structured in that way, I am very leery about. I don't believe it's original to our people, to our way. The Jews have done a lot of work, putting stuff in place, and the last thing I want to do is to continue in their vain traditions. So I am familiar with their keys and orders and things like that, but I don't go by them. When I blow the shofar, I just blow it, and sometimes I might follow. It might sound uh, uh, like a certain order, but not deliberately. I just blow it. The scriptures gives us some instructions on how to blow the shofar at different times, talking about the long sound when you hear this sound of the shofar, the long sound or the short sound, so on and so forth. But it's not in depth. It's not detailed enough where somebody could come along and actually write out those kind of instructions that they give, and then we know it to be so. The scriptures gives a little bit of insight into that, but not to the extent where we see them create these music sheets for it. So when I blow with a coot, I just kind of go with um, however Yahuah allow me to blow, but I don't go by their music sheets. Haki. Oh, praise you. You're welcome, Akut. Haki, I was just reading Haki Delayahu's statement. Yeah, afterwards. So his lips were vibrating for a while afterwards. Yeah, it feels like that when you first started. uh, oh, praise Father, Akut Mary, praise Yahuah. Let me go back. Akut Sharon, maybe your flag was still up from the last time. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. Anyone else before we close, family? All right. So once again, Mashpaka, want to say, uh, uh, oh, okay. Akut, Jeanette just shared a link. It's a YouTube video. I'm going to take a look at it. Let me open it up so I can go back and take a look at it later. It's titled "Where Was Yahusha for 18 Years?" I'm gonna take a look at it and look like it has some kind of Indian connection to it there. Um, I'm gonna take a look at it a little bit later on. Aki Willie, I see your flag. Aki, go ahead, Aki. Praise Father, Aki Adi. Praise Yahuah. Praise Yahuah.
Oh, oh yeah. Yes, Aki. My question was concerning the I was looking. I think it was in Uyakra or Leviticus, and it was and I think another one was in Shaphat. or Judges. No, Dabarim and Uyakra. Well, it was talking about the all. The is like AUL. And I remember I was looking like a few months ago. Watching other um, I was watching other teachers that was teaching Yahuwah's word, and I seen them with earrings in their ear, and I was like, well, if I was thinking, I was like, well, is this are they supposed to have that? Because my thinking was, when I see that, I'd be thinking like, are you still a slave? Because I was thinking like, uh, I think it was talking about like if they put an awl through their ear or something like that, then they say that they love their master or they want to belong to their master or something like that. And I was just wondering if I guess if I guess men wearing earrings, is that like a form of slavery, or I guess is ear piercings all right? I'm not sure for the women or anything like that, but I guess I'm specifically speaking about the men, especially if they find themselves calling themselves teachers of Yahuwah's word. So I'm gonna release the mic. That's what that was on my mind.
Yeah, yes. Great question again, Aki. I don't remember where it's at in the scriptures now, but the scriptures does speak of even the priest having earring in their ears, um, which and it was normal for Yasharal, and the women having a ring in their nose, a sign of marriage there also. So that was something not just done uh, as a sign of submitting to uh, a master, a slave submitting, but the priests also were permitted to wear an earring. The purpose I never quite got. Didn't really get the purpose behind it, but I've read it in the scriptures. I don't remember exactly where it's at right now, but I would think that's why you see some people wearing it. All right. Let's see. Uh, let's see now. Okay. All right. So we're going to. Mm, mm-hmm. And okay, Shamut 2:16, and yeah, that's talking about the slave. There's another text that speaks of the priest. I don't remember exactly where it's at right now, but it's in there somewhere. It might be in the book of Ezekiel. I don't remember exactly. Aki Delayahu, please go ahead, Aki. I see your flag.
Thank you, Aki. I'll be brief for a minute. I just want to let everyone know on the Mashpaka, which I quite sure they realize now, because I know at the beginning of this lesson, we were speaking about being set apart and about, we're part of a remnant of people who seeking the truth and stuff like that. But from my perspective, I just want to give everybody assurance that this awakening is real and it is growing at a rapid rate. Uh, it's funny that not even a week ago, I was having conversations with a couple of my buddies, and I know sometimes they probably have like a little poll going on about, okay, I bet you we can't go a whole meeting or a whole moment of conversation without him bringing up something about Yahuwah and everything like that. You know, I always leave on a note about Yahuwah everywhere I go. But it was one of my friends. He said something about Jesus, and I just looked at him like, you do know nobody really calls him Jesus anymore, right? The only people that call him Jesus is people that's in church still, because there is a movement going on, and everybody just laughed like he was in the dark, but wasn't like funny, but in a way it was like he felt kind of lost because he didn't know about that, and his version of the truth, which is another large growing kind of thing right now is that Egyptology stuff where
Yeah.
people are trying to be conscious and calling themselves being pro-black and going for the our ancestral kind of belonging to Egypt and everybody kings and queens and stuff like that, you
Yes.
know. And I think they were looking at the Tamu and their version of the cross, which is the Ankh or whatever. They putting tattoos of that and they call themselves, you know, Egyptians, and we need to embrace that. But besides those two away, but besides the awakening, you know, it's like Christianity is taking a blow slowly but surely,
Yes.
and it is growing. So, Montreal, whenever you think that you are being set apart and no one really is with you, you'll be surprised how many people know about this awakening and isn't letting it incorporate in their lives. 'Cause even I don't know what they call them, Caucasian, the white people are starting to know his name also, and they're starting to speak it also. So it's later it's gonna fade out to the point where the churches, sad to say, I don't know whether to say sad to say or not, but they're gonna have to come to the truth eventually. You know, whether or not they're gonna be proactive at it or wait to the last minute, I don't know. But as more people start being awakened, they're not gonna have any choice but to address the issue, and unless they're gonna get swallowed by it. You know,
Yes.
so,
Yes.
that's about all I would have wanted to say, Aki. That you know that we're not alone in this thing. Some people just call him Yahweh and things like that, but we are here, and the awakening is real. So just
Indeed.
feel comfortable because you know we're not here by ourselves, and just draw strength from each other until the time comes that Yahushua HaMashiach comes back to pick us up, and you know just keep it all together until then, because we are one. We are Yasharel.
Praise Yahuah. Hallelujah.
Mike.
To the Rabba Aki. To the and that is always encouraging to know and to hear and to see, because sometimes in this walk we can wonder, are there more people waking up? That's something that has always plagued Yasharal during any awakening, right? Because when Al Yahu was crying out, it was after Yasharal had been in some sleep. They were still in the land, yes, but they were sleeping in the land. They were fast asleep in the land. And so Yahuwah rose up the prophet to speak to them and other prophets. But Al Yahu, looking at what was going on, he didn't feel as if anybody else was getting the message, anybody else was being awakened, from their slumber. And so he said, there is nobody else who have not bowed the knees. I am the only one. And so Yahuwah had to remind him, Yahuwah had to tell him, no, 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 no. He says, I have 7,000 others who have not bowed the knee. But it can feel, you can wonder sometimes, and sometimes sometimes I do wonder. Sometimes I battle. Is my labor in vain? Is it worth continuing? And then Yahuwah remind me of his people, those who look forward to assembling here every Shabbat. you know and so Yahuwah have a way of yes, so he have a way of encouraging us and to let us know that he's working, and he's reaching his people, so we give Yahuwah praise for that. And we have and he continue to show us new faces, and people awakening, and so we give Yahuwah praise. So what you say is so true and so important, Aki. To Yahuwah truly be all esteem. Let me go to Aki Willie. Please go ahead, Aki Will.
Aki, I'm really not trying to hold you up the whole night.
No,
It's just been
it's
a whole
okay.
lot of my heart.
It's okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, I do want to go ahead and get a lot. Well, I'm not. This is my last one. But it was really concerning the beard because lately I've been finding myself usually when I grow usually when my beard gets like real thick or whatever, I will find myself, well, not shaving, but I'll usually get the trimmers and I'll probably use like a number 3 guard or a number 4 guard. and I just take it down. And I really don't feel like I'm condemned for doing it because the hair still remains on my
Yeah.
face. I guess what I'm thinking
Yeah.
of is is if I like actually shave it off,
Yeah.
and then that's where the condemnation comes in when you use a razor. So I guess what I'm trying to ask when it comes to what is it? Who am I looking at? I guess when it comes to Uyakra or Leviticus 21:5, they shall not make any baldness upon the head, neither shall they shave off the corner of their beard, nor make any cuttings in their flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure. Oh no, it's Uyakra 19:27. Ye shall not round the corners of your head, neither shall thou make mar the corners of thy beard. So I just want to make sure. Am I in the wrong or am I okay? Because I'm not sure if it's just shaping it up is the best thing to go for, or just trim what you can and just leave it alone. I'm just making sure that I'm not in the wrong for doing that because it was just on my mind. I never really felt condemned for it, like I said, because I just found myself just trimming it down. Because usually I don't want to get like too thick because I guess that's just not my thing. But I guess you can expound on that, and I understand that for some of Yashar, some of us are just natural baby face, or some of us just can only grow a goatee and can't go no further than that. So I guess for those of us that can grow out a beard, I just want to make sure I'm clarified on that, and
Yes.
I'll go ahead and release the mic.
Yes, indeed, indeed, a key. So what Yahuwah warned against is shaving the beard, right? Shaving it off. Um, I believe that you can groom your beard, and that's not an issue. You can groom it. You know, some people think that you have to just keep growing it long and long and long. But I believe that that perception comes from having seen some Jewish people grow their beards and theirs grow long. And so we think that we got to grow it long, but the reality is my beard can't grow too long. It doesn't grow very long. It comes to a point and then it don't go any further. It don't grow very long. Um, it's thick, but it don't grow really long. Even though I'd like for it to get longer, I just like my beard now. I'll go. There was a time at my job where they said you couldn't have a beard, and what I would do is I'd trim it really low. They'd tell me it was against policy because we had to wear. There are times when we have to wear certain what are they called? I'm gonna just use mask right now, um, and having a beard doesn't provide a proper seal when you put those on. So their policy was that you couldn't wear a beard. But a few months after I started there, they switched. They changed to this full face thing that you put on over your whole head, and you don't have to worry about a beard. So now the policies changed. You could wear your beard, as long as you want to wear it. So me, I go to work. I like just to let my hair grow, and let my beard grow. But at the same time too, and I let it go. But at the same time, I got to be mindful that They do expect me to, yeah, like a respirator, but they do expect me to my appearance got to have a certain look to it. So they do expect me to groom my beard. They're not telling me I got to cut it off, but they do expect me to groom it, and so I do that. Um, so I believe what Yahuwah warns against is shaving, right? But trimming your beard, I don't believe there's anything wrong with that. Now I know that there are people out there who they make up whole, I don't know what to call it, doctrines. Basically, would have you thinking that you can't do anything to it, just let it grow. But I don't necessarily find that to be right. I don't find any support in the scriptures for that. Another thing too, I want to be mindful of. And I always try to remind our people that we are a people in captivity. And then, as much as some people would like to think they're free to do whatever they want to do, and that they're free, the reality is we're not free. And some of our brothers work in jobs where there is their policy that you can't have a beard. I know one person that applied for a job at a fast food place, and they told him that he has to he can't have a beard, you know. And no, this person didn't. I don't think they understood why that was, but I understand why that is. If you're going to be preparing food and you have a beard, a long beard, and anybody who have a long beard knows that the hair comes out. And so if the food, you serve somebody food and you got somebody's hair in it, that's not cool, you know. So you got to understand why they say what they say, but some people don't understand that, you know. If you can do without taking a job where you got to groom it, then good, you see. But I don't think even with our hair that Yahuah intend for you to just run around looking just like bushwhacker. So yeah, but you can wear beard guards, you know, but if your beard is to a certain point, the guards don't cover it well enough. But you know, some people think that you shouldn't do anything to it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with grooming it. But I believe that if we can grow a beard, that we should grow our beard. You know, when you look at history, that's one of the things that marks Yasharal in these historical drawings of them by other people who have captured them. When I began to come to a knowledge of who we are, our identity, and I was searching out historical drawings and diagrams, that stood out to me. You see the people of Yasharal, the men of Yasharal, you could identify them by their beards and by their hair, you know. And that was amazing to me, that some of the things that Yahuah tell us to, you know, they actually serve as key indicators to who we are when we look at historical documents. Yeah, so, you know. All right. Now, you're welcome, Daki. Okay, Mashpaka. Well, yes, go ahead, Aki.
Shabbat shalom to everyone. What a great lesson. I'm going to be brief because I know everyone is probably a little bit, tired and need rest. But I was just coming to, I was going to piggyback on the beard situation. And what I understand, because I cut hair, and I guess I got a little bit of understanding of the hair. Far as what I believe and I understood of the scripture when he said don't cut the corners is not. Some people used to think, hey, you can't cut the corners as far as lining your hair. I said no, I don't believe who it was saying. It could be the translators when they said don't curve it, but I think I really believe it was meaning shaving it off, just cutting the corners of your beard off. And I believe part of the grooming, because of the modern thing and the captivity as well, you have to make it look. Some places that like you said before, I had times that I had to. Matter of fact, I had a summer job not too long ago, and I had to actually cut my beard off and just wear it. They let me wear the goatee, and I had to wear it long and line it. I had to have it looking nice, or shut it off, or cut it all the way off. So, yeah, sometimes but I was just saying my understanding of it is we can groom it And even I know some people nowadays are really into the grooming of them and making them look real nice. A lot of them, they're making it a lot of fashion. Besides us as Yahusha, we know what the meaning of it is, but nowadays you see a lot of people will wear them and make them look real. They groom them real nice and make them look real nice because they use it as a fad now. So, but I've always done that anyway, and I always wanted to grow a beard, and at one point in time I never could grow it because I would scratch my face while it's growing and it would bump up, and I would think that I couldn't never grow it. But one guy told me, he said, no, just rub it when it itches and let it grow. And I did that, and ever since then I started growing it. And then more and more I got into the truth. I noticed that, so we do really need these beards, because I've heard it at times that people would say, hey, you're supposed to wear a beard. You're supposed to have one, different things like that. But now I understand that, but I was just piggybacking off of Aki Willie about the curving of the beard. You can groom it. You can groom it and you can line it, make it look nice or whatever. But my question was, it wasn't really a question. I was, me and my wife, Shaw, was this morning read, and it came to me to read about the earrings in the nose. And I was like, man, where's it at? Because it's in the scripture. And then I had to, I looked it up, and it was in, I think it was on Bereshit 24, chapter 24. And it was talking about when Abraham and sent one of his servants to get Yashaka a wife, Shah or Baka. But I was reading that, and as I was reading down, I noticed that the servant himself had the earring and he had the gold bracelets. And I was thinking, I said, so that is, I believe that's the custom. And if I'm not understanding, I mean, if I'm correct, because I know sometimes the translation could be, could mess us up a little bit. According to the context of it, it seems to our women have worn the earrings to indicate their marriage, and that was to indicate her being a shawl for Yeshua. But he brought the gold ring to her, and he had all the directions. And we was reading that, and I was trying to figure out where do, because I know, because I was talking to my Shah, I said, would you want to wear one? And she said, yeah, but according to my job, I gotta be careful. And I thought about that, and I said, yeah, right. But you can, but would you wear it if you wanted, if you could? She's like, yeah, we'll wear it. And, but it's according to my job. And I said, I understood that. And I was just trying to, when I was looking in the scripture, I was trying to look and see how did they have it. Did they have it pierced when they had it inside, one side of the nostril, or did they have it in the middle, where it loop around the middle part where they can actually easily take it out? I was trying to figure, how did they wear it? I don't know if you got any indication on where and how did they wear it. Okay.
Yes. I think if I'm kind of going back, trying to reflect on what I've read, and we get two indications from Scripture. We get indication that the ring in the nose was worn where they put a hole through the middle, that little middle area of the nose, the nostril, and then we also have indication where it was worn on the one side in some cases also. So if I recall correctly, we see both. We see both in the scriptures. Again, it's been some time since I've read about this, so I can't recall the actual references. I'll have to go back again and find them. But and not just in the what they gave us, but also in the apocryphal writings, you find information on this. So I got to go back and look for them. But it doesn't seem to be that it has to be this way or that way, but we see both. We see both in the scriptures. And also, too, as we talk about the piercing of the nose, people also did it for pagan reasons also. So there were times when they did it for pagan reasons, which is not to say that for that reason it should never be done. Again, motive plays an important role, right? Motive plays an important role. Sometimes the mistake that our people make concerning certain things, because a certain thing was done for this reason, they think that it's never okay. But it's, again, motive. The heart is important in what we do. Two people could be doing the same thing but have different motives, and that makes a big difference. Their heart is in a different place in doing it, and that makes a big difference. Going back to, yes, go ahead, Aki.
And I was thinking, because my son would always say this. She would say, because I know the scripture says the gold ring, the gold hoop. She would say, if I do get my nose pierced, she wouldn't want to wear the stud. And I was like, no, I don't think I have to look more into that, but I don't think they were stud.
Yeah, it wasn't a stud at that time.
No, I don't think they had them back in that time. And I think they now wear the studs more of a fashion thing.
Exactly.
And like you said, the pagan, because she's like, a lot of them wearing them. I said, well, you got some of the women that, it's a show called Queen Sugar that we kind of look at sometimes. And it's the sister that she got dreads in her hair, and she has the gold hoop in her hair, in her nose. She's not married though. And she's like, well, you want me wearing like that Queen Sugar? She would try to make fun of it in the sense of that. And I was like, no. I said, according to our customs, remember I was telling you. And she's like, oh yeah. So that's why I was asking that part of it. I was like, no, not the stud. I said, that's not according to the custom. I say, I don't think they wasn't wearing that. That's according to fashion. And what you said, a lot of them was for pagan reasons too, because you have a lot of people that have piercings all over their body,
yes.
And stuff like that. So, but I believe I have the clarification on that, and I said to Dr. for that key. And I think I had one more question. I can't remember now, but I'll get back to you on it. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Aki. Another thing, too, going back to the subject of the beards, and Akut Mahalia brought up something that I was intending on saying also. As much as there are people out there who say that, listen, for somebody to say they're African is not to say that they're from a certain particular country. We have to understand that first and foremost, and I believe that everybody in this room understand that. But in case somebody come listening to this recording, hear me talking about this now, I hope they understand clearly what I'm saying. So, if somebody say I'm African, that doesn't tell you where in Africa you're from. Just like when they say you're African American, that tells you nothing, hardly anything about your history. Don't tell you barely enough. But the fact of the matter is that the people of Yasharal are from the African continent, because what's today called Yasharal is a part of the African continent. Okay, so in that sense, we can say that we are from the African continent. Okay, now there is a reason why I'm saying this. So when it comes to the beard and Yahuah's instructions concerning the beard and the marring, the cutting, the marring of the corners, we need to understand that from an African context. Okay, and I believe that's where a lot of people kind of get mess up on understanding it. We need to understand it from an African context. In among some peoples, nations in Africa, they do have customs of marring themselves, marring their heads, marring their faces, marring the corners of their heads, the borders of their heads, because really the word that's used is not corners. The word should be more properly translated borders. Okay? Marring the borders of their heads. Some do it in a ritual for the dead, people that they have that have died. Some do it for other religious reasons. And I believe that that's the context that Yahuah is speaking from when he talk about marring the borders of your heads and your beard. From that pagan ritualistic custom. I believe that's what Yahuah is speaking from. On the other hand, though, at the same time, Aki Trevin mentioned this. There is a fad among a lot of black men where they really get into grooming their beard, and they have even names for it. Some of it comes from Islam. They call it I don't remember what they call it. But they really spend a lot of time marking it out, grooming it up, and stuff like that. And even though they might not have anything pagan in mind for doing it, or pagan reason for doing it, it becomes a thing of too much into self. You know, it becomes too much prettiness. It becomes too much into self, and that itself, I believe, is an abomination to Yahuah, also. You know, so we need to be mindful of all of that, right? I don't get into shaping up my beard. I groom it. I don't get into cutting and shaping and nothing like that, you know. I groom my beard, but I don't, and I'm not into the whole pretty stuff, you see, because I don't want to be mistaken, or I don't want anybody to be mistaken, you see. I don't want anybody to be mistaken. I think we have to be mindful of that also. All right, Mashpaka, I've kept you long. And I know, thank you for holding out, those who have been able to hold out, but I got to let you go. All right, so we're going to prepare to close out here on this evening.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Aki?
Yes, Aki, go ahead.
Sorry. I was one more thing. I was just thinking about what you said about the grooming the beard. There's certain things that because I cut hair,
Yes.
and there's certain things that I do to my beard. I mean, I still just do the simple thing, as far as not try to make it all sticky up like that.
Yes.
But I groom it enough that it still kind of looks presentable as nice with my, because I get my hair cut a little bit, because I want to be what you call an example, because I'm working in this business, and I wanted the person to see me, if I keep it myself, groomed, that's what we call groom, not getting all into the fancy stuff, but just groom so they can see, okay, he's clean, and he's, as far as groomed, even though he's got a beard, he's groomed, because I used to have to actually wear, before I knew the truth, I wasn't wearing a beard. I was looking, like you said, prettied up. And I was pretty much, because I didn't like the hair of my face looking ragged, so I would clean it up, groom it, and clean it up. So, but now I kind of just groom it enough to be presentable, looking nice enough for the person, the client, to see that I do still, that I cut hair and I keep myself up. So I use it as an example, because of work. But as far as the prettied up thing, I got away from that. But I'm still kind of, I was always a person that kind of moved in a sense. So, and I believe we had, according to some of the scripture, I would always say, we did have some of our people that probably did that, because they mentioned some of the guys that were fair. They kind of, they were, like, say, for instance, Yahusha. as you read the scripture, you can tell he was fair.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to be good looking, and he kind of not to look pretty, like too pretty, but you could tell that he was he looked nice, and he probably kept himself nice. And I was always imagine I know he had a beard probably, and he probably kept it tidy because of where he was at. He was in Matraim, and he was up high, so he might have had to do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So.
Yes, to that key, to that. Okay. What you had a question, babe? Okay. Shalom to you, Akud Carmen. Shalom. Yes, indeed. Yes, please. Oh, okay. Yeah, shalom, mashpaka. Okay, so we're gonna close out. I've held you all long, and we're gonna close. Okay. All right. Once again, family, we give Yahuah praise, honor, and esteem for this opportunity and for this time. Hallelujah. Let's turn our faces toward Abba. Praise Yahuah. Father, we thank and praise you for yet another Shabbat. Thank you for keeping us through the past week, and as you now lead us into yet another week, we pray, Father, that you would continue to be with us, shelter us, cover us, watch over us, and guide us. I pray that you would keep us, Abba Yahuah, in all that we do. I pray, Father, that the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts would be found acceptable in your sight. Father, we know that we are living in troubled times. We see a resurrection of, hatred has been here, but somehow it seemed to be resurrected in a way that we have not seen it openly for some time. And so as our people go about your people, I pray that you would just cover, watch over us, and keep us, and let not the adversary rule over us. And so do this, we pray, Abba, in Yahusha's name. Continue to barak those of us who are not in the greatest of health. Father, continue to strengthen and encourage and keep your people. Bring healing, I pray, Yahuah, in Yahusha's name. Amen. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuah. Family, may Yahuah barak you and keep you. May Yahuah lift up his face upon you and show favor unto you. May Yahuah cause his face to shine upon you and to give you his shalom. May the name of Yahuah be upon you all. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuah. Love you all, Mashpaka. And we're going to close out. I say Leila Tub to you all. And Yahuah willing, I'll be seeing you next Shabbat. Shalom. Shalom, family. And Yahuah willing, I'll see you soon. Leila Tub.